Hi, my name is Michely, Brito.
Where were you born?
I was born in São Paulo, Brazil.
When did you travel to the States?
I traveled to the States in 1989, September 17th.
At what age?
I had just turned 9 the week before.
So tell me a brief description of the years between 1989 and 1995.
Okay, it was a period of many changes because I came to a new country, I had to learn a new language, sort of like Americanize, and childhood memories here were completely different. It was really cold. We came in the fall, so I had my first winter here, and I remember thinking, like, why is this so cold? And, like, none of the trees had any leaves on it, so I thought, like, everything was dead. I was like, what's going on in this place? But anyway, time passed. I got with the program. I understood winter and fall here. Major things from 89 to 95, Bush left office, there was the Gulf War, Bill Clinton took office, there was the Monica Lewinsky scandal, rap music became really popular.
What was your favorite rappers?
I wouldn't say they were my favorite rappers, but I remember Dr. Dre and I remember Snoop Dogg. And then there was like Boyz II Men.
You liked them, right?
Yeah, they were good. And then wasn't like Backstreet Boys, were they 90s?
I think they were
100%
90s.
sure.
Maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, and NSYNC. I think that was late 90s, probably. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Then there was the Rodney King thing in LA.
How'd you feel about that?
It's odd because in Brazil, it's really more of a class warfare. It's more like the poor versus the rich. I never felt like there was a race, clash or like black versus white until I came to this country. I had people that didn't want to be my friend because I either didn't speak proper English or because I was white and I wasn't black.
Mm-hmm.
So it was here that I really learned this whole like racism, black versus white. I never experienced that in Brazil. So, I mean, it's still happening today. It's police brutality.
Yeah.
We're in 2015. Not much has changed as far as race relations, in my opinion.
Tell me about
in the 90s.
Tell me about your school life.
Grammar school or high school?
Both, if you want.
Well, I went to a Catholic grammar school.
St. John's, right?
St. John's. Very strict. We had some sisters for principals, and they were no joke.
Tell me about it.
But it was nice going to high school because then I didn't have to wear a uniform, and I was like a whole new world. Just as far as studies, it was just even better because you had a variety of subjects, and I don't know, I just felt like liberated. It was a lot more freedom than being in Catholic school. So, and of course, high school are like the best years of your life.
What social things did you do in high school? Like, did you ever play sports?
No, I wasn't into sports. I wish I was, so I could get like a scholarship to college or something, looking back. I mean, I was friends with all the cheerleaders and the jocks, but I was never in sports. But I was like in peer leadership, in ROTC. I took a bunch of different classes. But I didn't really participate in too many after school activities. And then once I was a senior, I was only going to school for like half a day, and then I was working. So I got my first job when I was 16.
What was your first job?
I was a telemarketer for Sears, and I was absolutely terrible at it. But it paid really well at the time. I forget how much it paid an hour, but it was like way more than anyone else I knew was making. Like anyone working at let's say a CVS or a store, they were making less.
Was it easy to get jobs?
It was fairly easy, and I think it helped because I was in high school, so they had like a work-study program. So a lot of like the teachers, would know people that were hiring, and they would like put in a good word for you. So I don't think it's changed as much as now, because sometimes it's really who you know, not what you know. But I think it was a lot easier than what teenagers are probably facing today. Because now you guys are competing with people my age that are out of work, which is insane.
Was school easy for you?
Yes. Yes and no. I'm going to say 95% of the time it was super easy. And the only 5% I would tell you no is because I was incredibly lazy. Because things came pretty easy to me. So I was not the type of person that had to study for a whole week for a test. It was literally, okay, I showed up to class, I took good notes, and I'm just going to read them like half an hour before the test, and I'm good to go. And so, in that sense, the reason why I would say it was not easy in some ways was because teachers wanted you to write all these papers and essays, and I'm like... this is like useless. Like I could pass the test and get my A and keep it moving, and I don't need to like write like 10 pages or 15 pages or 20, whatever they were looking for. So.
Okay. What TV shows did you watch? Any sitcoms?
Yeah.
Any dramas?
Saved by the Bell. I remember it always used to be on, I think, after school. I think I used to come home and always put the TV on. Saved by the Bell was on. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So those were the two I remember the most when I was in grammar school. And then as I got older, there was like Friends, Will and Grace. I'm sure there were many others, but those are the ones that stand out a lot.
Do you remember any let's talk about the Monica Lewinsky. Do you have any opinions about that?
Okay. In hindsight, now that I'm older, I may feel a little differently, but I think I still feel like, honestly, in my opinion, what happened between Monica and Bill isn't none of my business. I don't really care what he's doing, but I felt like maybe he wasn't doing that in his spare time. So I feel like he should have been doing his job, which is what is expected of the president. But I don't really think that his extramarital affairs are any of my business. I mean, now that I'm older, there are so many people that have affairs.
Yeah.
Not that that's normal or acceptable, but I just feel like it doesn't interfere with your job. 90% of the people that have affairs, it doesn't make them a worse or better worker because they have an affair. So... And, I still feel that way. Like, when it first came out, everybody's like, oh my god. And I'm like, I don't really care. Like, what happens between Hillary, Monica, and Bill, none of my business. Just do your job as a president, and I think we'll be okay.
How about, the O.J. Simpson trial?
I remember I was in high school and that was going on, and it was tense.
Did you watch The Chase?
I didn't watch The Chase, but I remember the trial was televised. And I was in high school, and I remember, some teachers were allowing, us to watch, what was going on. Mm-hmm. Depending on what class you were in. I guess if it was relevant, if it was, history or law or whatever.
Yeah.
They were letting us watch the trial. And I remember it was so divisive, there were certain people that were like, oh, he should go to jail, he's so guilty. And it was mostly, the teachers. And then most of the kids were like, well, you don't know,
Were you one of them?
Yeah, because at the time I was just I didn't really fully understand everything that went on, and I didn't have all of the information. So at the time, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know who he was, that he was famous for football or any of that. And I'm like, oh, it was the usual, oh, he's just a black guy. They want to put him in jail because he killed a white woman.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the kids at the time felt. But I also feel like we weren't on the internet today.
Yeah.
And we didn't have access to all the facts. It was just either what you heard through friends, or... No one was reading, the New York Times to see exactly, okay, let's get some credible sources of information. No one was watching CNN. you know, we were just kind of going by what the news was saying, and, you know, but looking back now, I'm like, okay, he killed her, I think. I mean, you know, in my opinion. But, I remember when the verdict came out, I was in one of the classes, and I think it was like Spanish class or something, and the kids were like cheering, like, yay, he's not guilty. And the teachers were just looking at each other like, can you believe he got off? He should be in jail. And I was just like, wow, like, this is like a big deal, you know. But I mean, it was a big deal back then. I remember very vividly. It was very controversial. I still think it is till today if people actually look into it. So.
Were you in school when the Rodney King event happened?
No. I mean, I was in school, but I wasn't in school when it was first reported. But I remember watching it on TV that night, like the cops beating him, and I was like, wow. Like, that is bad. Like, that is just so, so bad. And there's no way to, like, justify it or... I mean, you know, the tape showed it all.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of what people felt or what the circumstances were. And I feel like it's the same way today. When you see videos on YouTube or on the news, you know, like cell phone videos of police beating someone.
Like the Eric Gardner case.
Regardless of race, you know, you're just like, really, like, you never know the whole story because you don't know what happened prior to the cop getting there or getting involved. But it always looks really horrible that, you know, here you are, a person of authority that's trusted to protect the public, and you're beating someone, you know. So it's hard to say. Sometimes, you know, we lose our patience with each other. And I feel like sometimes cops just kind of lose it. You know, they're out there every day putting their lives on the line. And, you know, it's hard to say what goes on. Like, you know, people want to pick a side, but there's always three sides to every story. His, hers, and the truth. And you never know what part of the story that tape actually got.
How did the kids in your school feel about it?
You know, honestly, I think there was a pretty big consensus that, you know, what was done was horrible and they should go to jail. I don't think anyone sat there and tried to defend the cops at the time. And I think public opinion as well. I think people were pretty much...
Was it still the connection, like he was black and the cops were white?
Well, I mean, in the school I attended, it was very mixed, but I think minorities made up a majority of the students. So it was mostly Hispanic and African American. And I don't remember, like, the friends I had saying, oh, you know, it's because he's black, it's because he's black. I think people were just really shocked
at the police brutality.
At the police brutality of it all. I mean, I had one, I'll never forget him. He was, his name was Mr. Smith. He was my world history teacher.
You told me about him.
And he was an African American guy. And I remember he used to tell every one of us, didn't matter what race you were, how old you were. He said, if the police tells you to put your hands up, you put your hands up. Because they have a gun and they can kill you. And there's no reasoning with a gun. And it's funny because he's kind of right.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying it's justified in any way, shape, or form. But honestly, I know you have a deadly weapon. And if I don't, I am certainly not going to question anything until either you arrest me or I have an attorney. And if I have to sue the living daylight out of you, I'll do what I have to do. But until then, I know that I'm not armed and you have a weapon. And that's where you just need to be quiet and do what you're told. I don't think being confrontational with the police is ever a good thing.
Yeah. Do you know the movies that you used to watch as a kid? Maybe like Home Alone or...
Oh yeah, that was big. Home Alone was big. It was funny. It was really funny back then. I'd like to say I remember, but I wasn't like the biggest movie buff.
Were you like more of a TV show, or did you read books?
I was more on TV shows. I used to like reading books. Fiction, a lot of fiction. Didn't have a favorite book. I just liked to read anything I could get my hands on. I used to love reading magazines. Anything, really.
What magazines did you read at the time?
Oh, God, anything.
Like
anything.
People?
Anything
People
I could get
magazine?
my hands on. It didn't matter. Even the newspaper. I know that sounds really...
That sounds
corny.
nerdy.
Yeah, nerdy. That's what you guys say now. But, no, I like to read. And I used to love history. I used to like reading, like, history books. And I loved politics. Like, anything to do with politics, I was there. So,
Really?
yeah. Yes, I don't... I mean, I'm sure I could think of, like, a million movies, but right now, it's just not coming to mind.
Okay. Oh, was there ever discrimination towards you when you were younger and in school?
Yeah, like initially when I got here, I didn't speak the language.
Mhm.
So
How hard was it, like, to learn the language and get used to it?
you know, it's a really helpless feeling because you feel like you're mute, like you don't have a way of communicating with someone.
Mhm.
And it's really, like, difficult to describe, but it's a really debilitating feeling where you want to communicate with someone and you simply can't.
Mhm.
And you go from being able to, you know, speak a language and get whatever you want or be out in public and be able to, you know, strike up a conversation with another kid.
Mhm.
And then you get here and, like, I remember I knew how to say hi and bye. You know, those were like the basic things. And then the rest, like, half the time I'd be sitting in class and I had no clue what was going on. Like,
They didn't put you in,
first-
like, the other classes?
No. See, ESL programs were not as, I would say as popular, or, you know, it wasn't as prolific as it is today.
Yeah.
So my day would be 80% of the day in a class where only English was spoken, and then for an hour and a half, I would be taken out to like a separate like trailer.
Mhm.
It wasn't even a classroom; it was like a trailer outside of the school. That's how little
Wow.
their program was. And for an hour and a half, you sat there, and they tried to teach you English, and it was basically like being in kindergarten. Like you had workbooks, and you know you had like, let's say, cat, whatever it was, and you had to write it over and over like you do as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're learning how to write and read,
Mhm.
it was like that. So, but then I'd go back to class, and the math class I'd get because it was numbers, obviously. But I clearly remember when they used to have like reading and writing, I'd sit there and I'd be like, what the heck is going on? Like, I would look at the words in the book, and the way I would think they were pronounced were definitely not the way they were pronounced in English.
Yeah.
So I would pay attention when other kids would read out loud to see, like, okay, this is how it's spelled, but even though that makes no sense to me how they pronounced it, that's how it's pronounced. So I would try to memorize, like, how each word was pronounced. So it was a feeling of complete confusion and like being lost. Like, even like if you got lost in the hallway, if it was a big school,
You couldn't ask anybody,
I
right?
couldn't necessarily turn and be like, hey, I'm lost. How do I get to room, I don't know, 505? You know? It was just kind of like,
Figure it out yourself.
I'm kind of like mute because I can't really speak to you. So yeah. But it's a liberating feeling once you start to understand things. But it was a difficult time to transition. I mean, now it's funny. It wasn't funny back then when it was happening. But I remember I used to go home, and my mom would pick me up from school every day, and I would go home crying. Every day. Every day she'd pick us up. It was cold outside, and I'm like, I don't know why we're here. I hate this place. None of my friends are here. I can't talk to anybody.
Did you hate your parents for coming here for a while?
No, it was just kind of like, I don't know why we're here. It was like all confusing, honestly. Like,
They didn't tell you why they came here.
Well, I knew like why, because at the time, like, the teachers in Brazil were on strike for like 6 months. People were losing their jobs. I knew like the basic gist of it, that things were not good as far as like jobs, and I knew like we weren't going to school because the public school was on strike for like 6 months. So, I mean, I'm so glad I moved here, obviously. It was like the best decision my parents ever made, and I even tell them now that I'm older, like, thank God we moved here, because the opportunities in this country are, people can say whatever they want about the U.S., that we meddle in other people's business, that, this is like an evil country, and that, we want to take over, and that we're always, trying to be like the superpower. People can say whatever they want. There is no place like living here. This is the only place where you can come, and whether you speak the language or not, eventually you can get yourself legalized. You can go to school. You can learn the language. You can make something of yourself. I honestly always say, if you're an immigrant and you're here and you didn't go to school, it's because you didn't want to go. It's not like in South America where it's who you know. Like, if you're friends with the military, you get into this good school. If your parents are poor, good luck. Good luck, because school there is free. It's public, like universities are public, and you take placement exams to get in, except that all the rich people buy their way in.
Wow.
Or if they don't buy their way in, obviously they attend better schools and they score better as well. So your odds of getting in, if you're middle class or lower class, are very slim. And some people will argue it's the same thing here, where if you're a minority or in a lower economic bracket, you don't score as high on SATs. I get it. But you can still go to school. Whether it's a county college, state college, you can get in. Like, this is the country where there's absolutely no reason for you not to go to school and make something of yourself. So, I thank God I'm here.
Okay. Was there discrimination for you being Brazilian? Like, did anybody mock you for it?
No, I mean, they mocked me when I was first learning English. But then...
Because you had an accent?
Yeah, I had an accent, or sometimes you would say things in the wrong tense. Or I would describe things wrong. Like, in Brazil, if you're saying the sky is blue, we say blue sky. Like, you'll say blue sky or sky blue. So I would mix the verb the pronoun or the noun. Like, it's not in the same sequence. So people would immediately know, okay, you're not from here because you're not speaking proper English. So discrimination was only
because you didn't speak English?
Yeah, basically when I didn't speak English. But then, as I got older, obviously English was no longer a problem.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily look Hispanic or South American, so I think that helps too.
When you told people, were they like, did they think you were cool for it?
Yes, I get mixed reactions. Like, some people are like, oh my God, I would never think, like, you're not American.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of people are like, oh my God, Brazilians are so friendly. They're such nice people. Which is true. For the most part, we're actually very friendly people. So, I don't know. I would say, I wouldn't say I was discriminated against for being Brazilian. I would say that at times it was an icebreaker, and I think people were like, oh, okay, I have a Brazilian friend. And I'm like, okay, I'm not some type of exotic bird here. But, I think it's been a positive thing. I wouldn't say it's been a negative thing.
What was your memorable moment in being here in America?
Gosh, I mean, honestly, I feel like the life I live here is completely different than the life my family members live in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
So here, I'm just like, I'm a skip and hop away from New York City. Like, there are people that pay thousands of dollars to come to New York City for a week or, And I'm like, I just take the train over. I went to
30-minute
Statue
ride.
of Liberty. I was at the World Trade Center before they fell. I'm able to go to concerts here, see people play that my cousins think it's such a big deal. And to me, it's like, yeah, okay, I've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
You get to go to Broadway shows and, it's completely different here. You work hard and the fruits of your labor show. Like, you can buy whatever car you want. You can go shopping. It's not, nothing's out of reach here. So it's, if you ask me my memories, I would say, yes, living in Brazil is great. I used to live 2 blocks away from the beach.
Oh.
I know. My schedule was beautiful. We woke up very early. We were in school by 7 a.m. I was out by 2 o'clock. I used to go to the beach till about 5 because my school was across from the beach. And come home, have dinner, do my homework, go to bed. Wake
That's
up the next
life.
morning, repeat my schedule again. Obviously, that's not happening here.
Oh, no.
But, I have memories of, playing in the snow and having snowball fights with my friends, going to the movies. Not much different than what you teenagers go through now. Like your parents used to drop you off at the mall and be like, see you later. Go to the movies with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's different. But honestly, it was not much different than what you guys do now. Except we didn't have all that social media drama that you guys have
Did
now.
you experience the internet rise, at least?
Yeah, when we were, in high school, right?
Yeah, dial-up in middle school.
Yeah,
Dial-up,
even in middle school. I remember when I was in 8th grade, we had a computer. And it was, I think the beginning of the web where everybody was, first getting on.
Mm.
And AOL, oh my God, that sounds, so ancient.
You
and
got
it's
mail.
You got mail. La, 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 So I remember that. And then, but, when I was going to high school, we still had a library, and you had to know what a card catalog was. I don't even know if you guys know what that is.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, there were these tiny little drawers. You pull them out in alphabetical order.
Oh my God.
Telling you where the book you're looking for is in the library.
And then you had to go find the book?
Yeah, so it would say book number 613.85. And then you had to go find it. Yeah.
That's torture right there.
I know. We didn't have, we had actual encyclopedias that you had to go through these thick books and look for silly things. It's so, by the time I was in college, of course, that was all done.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was on the web. But, today you guys are handing homework in through the web. And I'm like, what?
Turnitin.com.
I can't even, call out sick if I didn't do my paper. I can't, make up a lie. My printer wasn't working yesterday. I'll get it to you by tomorrow. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You kids don't have that excuse anymore. So, it was actually good living in the 90s, okay? Definitely not all that social pressure you guys go through now.
Yeah.
And I don't think we had as much homework.
Oh my God. Don't even tell me about that.
We didn't have as much homework.
8 hours of homework? Did you ever have that?
Okay, maybe for some of my friends, we had 8 hours of homework. Mm-hmm. But I was one of those kids that, if I came in and the homework was on the board, I was doing the homework during a class. I was not listening to you. I was doing that homework because I was not carrying that book home. I literally went to high school and did not have a book bag.
Really?
My junior and senior year. No way. If you caught me carrying 2 books home, that was one too many. And honestly, I was the same way in college. I would just be doing my own thing during class. I'd take the notes, but in between that, I'd be on another page doing something else. Like, I had friends in college who would, even high school, they'd be like, we need a study group. I'm like, what? Yeah, we're all going to sit together and study. I think you guys still do that today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know what that's about.
It doesn't help, I swear.
Okay, well, I don't understand it because I always opted out. And I always hated doing projects with other people.
Oh, tell me about it.
Because there's always that one dumb person in your group. Or that one person who has no clue how to get it done. And I didn't want to leave my grade up to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think that's changed. I think they still have that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I got things pretty quickly. And so I didn't feel like I needed to study as much as my peers. And anyway, you guys have internet now. So, I mean...
Does it make it easier?
Yes, it makes it easier. Are you kidding? It's like all the info you need in the click of a mouse.
I guess.
I don't actually have to read, like, the 30 pages. I could just kind of, like, brief through it and see what other people said about it.
So I guess that was the only hard part about school for you?
Yeah. And math. I hated math. And today I work.
Are you kidding me? All you do is math.
I know. Today I work in, like, accounting, and that's all I do. I deal with numbers all day, every day, and that's the irony of life. And for you and anyone else seeing this, there's a very high probability that you will end up doing something you did not study for. So don't take it so seriously. Enjoy it all. Have fun. But don't think that if you map out your entire next 15 years, there's a good chance that that's not exactly what's going to happen. You know? I mean, unless you're one of those people that, like, I have to go to med school and I have to be a lawyer. But a lot of my friends did not end up in the same, you know, jobs that they thought they would or what they studied for. So. And it's okay. It's okay. You guys will be fine.
Okay, do you remember what music you listened to? Like, just name one song. One song that stuck with you in the 90s.
Oh, God,
Could be anything.
what was it, Gin and Juice? Dr. Dre? I think that was one of them. That was, like, a big one.
Let's not talk about underage drinking.
And that was not age appropriate at all. But it was like,
How about End of the Road?
End of the Road, yeah, okay. That was a sappy song. Yeah. And I think, like, Madonna was around in the late 80s still.
Yeah.
Well, she's still around now. But I think she was, like, I remember before I moved here, like,
she was big in
Material Girl. It was hot. Like, everybody was like, Madonna this, Madonna that. So, I think, like, okay, maybe not late 80s, but, you know, that was, like, still big. Madonna was still big, actually. She was still relevant. Michael Jackson was still somewhat relevant in the 80s, you know? He was huge. It's hard to think back now because, like, he's dead and she's old.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, Thriller was a big deal. Oh, my God, that music video. Everybody talked about it.